Hello to all the classes, Algebra 1 classes out there. Today we're going to be working on section 3.8 out of our textbook. It is called Rewrite Equations and Formulas, but it's also known as function form and literal equations. If you look at your vocabulary, it says that function form is an equation where x and y is written so that you're rewriting it so that the dependent variable y is isolated on one side of the equation. So your goal is to solve for y and everything else on the other side. And then in part 2, we're going to be working with literal equations. And a literal equation is simply any equation that contains two or more variables. And a lot of those formulas, a lot of them are formulas, like your distance formula, your what else would there be? Area formulas, perimeter formulas, all those geometry formulas that we have. So we're going to look at two kinds of equations. One's the function format, and the other one is going to be working with literal equations. So for part 1, our goal is to write equations in function form, and that is simply getting y isolated to one side. So example 1a, take a look. My goal is to solve for this variable y, which means I need to eliminate the 2x. I also need to eliminate the 2. I'm going to remove the 2x first by doing the inverse operation of addition, which is subtraction. Get rid of it. It is now officially eliminated. I'm going to bring down what I've got left over on the left, the 2y value. From there, look to the right. You'll notice that I've got a 10 and a minus 2x. These are not like, so therefore you cannot combine. Using math etiquette, my x always goes before the constant. And this will be important later, so you want to make it a habit of actually getting the x written first before the actual constant value. Put the constant last. One step away from getting y completely isolated, and that is get rid of the 2 by dividing. Again, whatever you do on one side, do to the other. 2's are eliminated, so y equals. Notice that the denominator of 2 is a common denominator for both fraction terms of the 2x divided by 2 and the 10 divided by the 2. Because this can be simplified, I'm going to simplify. Negative 2x divided by 2 is negative x, and 10 divided by 2 is positive 5. You've just taken the equation that was originally given as 2x plus 2y equals 10, and you step by step gotten y isolated to one side, which is known as function form. Y is dependent on x. Take a look at 1b. We're going to do it again. Your goal is to solve for y in the equation 3 plus 3y equals 9 minus 6x. My goal is to solve for the y. I need to eliminate both of these 3's, but the first 3 I need to get rid of is the addition of 3, which is subtract. Notice that I've lined up the minus 3 with the 9 on the right side. 3's are eliminated. 3y is brought down. Right side again, take a look. The negative 6x cannot be combined with anything else. I'm just forcing it to come down. 9 minus 3, I can combine, giving me a difference of 6. So one step away again from solving for y. Divide by 3, divide by 3. 3 is eliminated from the left, but on the right side, again, you can simplify the negative 6x over 3 and the positive 6 divide by 3. Negative 6x divided by 3 is negative 2x, and 6 divided by 3 is positive 2. You have just taken two equations that had variables x and y involved, where you have rewritten them so they are in function form. Y is by itself, y is by itself. Put the x before the constant, put the x before the constant. In part 2, when you flip your paper over, we're going to be solving literal equations, which in the first example that you see, you're looking at a formula for a triangle. A equals 1/2 times the base times the height. Our goal is to solve for h. I know the area is already solved for, but this time I want to actually rewrite the entire equation so that I'm solving for the height instead. So A equals 1/2 b times h. Since my goal is to solve for h, I need to actually eliminate the 1/2 that's being multiplied by the base, and the base is being multiplied by the h. So if I do one step at a time so you can see the process, I'm going to get rid of the 1/2 that's being multiplied by actually multiplying by its inverse. Okay, multiply by the reciprocal, and whatever you do on the right, you're going to do on the left. So I probably should put my separation left side, right side. So 2 times a is just simply 2a. We don't know the actual value, but we know we have to multiply. You'll notice that the 1/2 times the 2 actually cancel each other. They're inverses. We purposely do inverses, remember that. H is almost by itself. Get rid of the b, and because b is being multiplied, we're going to divide. And whatever you do on the right, do on the left. And notice that you have just isolated the h value. Again, we don't know the a and b values, so that's all you can do, and then simply rewrite the 2a over b until we know the values. So again, math etiquette, we're going to use the reflexive property and rewrite h so that 2a over b is equal to the h. And I apologize, I should have said the symmetric property. It's not the reflexive, it is the symmetric property. Math etiquette, whatever you are solving for, put that on the left, everything else on the right. So literal equations are a little bit different because there's so many variables involved, and you're not necessarily working with values that we already know. So this is something just rewriting equations into different formats. Because we could have started with the original equation and we could have solved for b instead of the h, but the directions were asking to solve for b. But the idea is the same. The next formula that you're going to see on the right side there should be the formula for the area of a trapezoid. So we are going to try to isolate and solve for the b sub 1. So I'm going to highlight the b sub 1 because that's what my goal is. And I'm going to solve by undoing and unwrapping this formula. The 1/2 is being multiplied by h, and that whole expression is being multiplied by the sum of b sub 1 and b sub 2. Excuse me. So my first step to undo this process, I need to get rid of the 1/2. Then I'm going to get rid of the h. And then eventually I'm going to get rid of the b sub 1. But I can't go inside the parentheses until I get rid of the 1/2 and h. So as I did before, 1/2 is being multiplied by h, so I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. What I do on the right, I'm going to do on the left. So I've got 2a equals 1/2 cancels, leaves me with h on the outside of b sub 1 plus b sub 2. As I mentioned earlier, my next step, I want to get rid of the h. And to get rid of the h, since it's being multiplied, I shall divide. I shall divide. I'm going to put my, should have done that first, I apologize. So the h's finally cancel each other out. I don't need my parentheses anymore because it's no longer anything attached to it. I'm going to bring down the left side, which is 2a over h. Again, we don't know their values, so we're just going to leave it as you see it. You're almost there. Our goal was to get b sub 1 by itself. The b sub 2 is added on, so I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting it off. So here we go. B sub 1 comes down. Bring down my equal sign. And over on the left side, these are not like terms again. So the 2a over h subtracted by b sub 2 is all you've got left. You don't know their values. And so I'm going to do my symmetric property, rewrite, because I always like to know that my given variable is on the left side. And then rewrite it using the symmetric property. Folks, you don't have to do this. It's just good math etiquette. You could have left your answer, and I'm going to use a different color. This is okay. This was okay. This is okay. This is okay. But this happens to be better. Okay. This happens to be better. So that is the end of our lesson. So get two goals. One, to write in function form. So function form was the front side of your worksheet. And then on the back side of your worksheet was to solve for literal equations. You're literally solving for a different variable than what they already have. So the you try it's that you're going to do tonight. Number one, I want you to rewrite, so flip back over, apologize, flip back over. 19 minus 3y is equal to 8x minus 2x plus 10. Your goal is to solve for y. Function form, isolate the y. And then you tried number two, I put a 1/3 outside of y plus 2, and then add 3x, set it equal to x. So think through when you start solving and rewriting it in function form. Your goal is to solve for y, but you need to simplify some steps before you can start solving for y. When you're done doing that, you can flip your paper over. And then on the you try number 3 on the back side, you've got P, which is the perimeter formula, equals twice the length plus twice the width for the formula of a rectangle. You want to rewrite this so that you're solving for the length. And you're solving for L. And then last you try, number 4, I've got a Fahrenheit formula for temperature. 9/5 times Celsius is plus 32 will give me Fahrenheit. But if I rewrite this, I want to actually solve for Celsius now. And I want to solve for Celsius so that C becomes by itself. So think of what operations you need to take to unwrap the C and isolate it by itself. So give it a try. Remember to write any questions, comments, or concerns down on your paper so we know what's going on. And that's the end of lesson number 14, rewriting equations and formulas.